Welcome to Leadership and People. This is a series that pulls back the curtain on leadership by interviewing CEOs, senior executives, and entrepreneurs who've had large exits. We ask these experts about how they built trusted networks to rapidly grow their companies and what advice they wish they knew if they could do it all again. Today on the show, we've got Brian Bowers.
Leadership in business means that you're providing opportunity for other people to grow and develop. And as you're doing that as a leader, then you really are creating an opportunity for those individuals, but you're also creating, I think, a culture and a company that can actually grow.
If you missed the first part of the episode, really suggest going back and hearing some of the successes he had at Raytheon and Mity Lite and some other work he's done since MIT Sorenson Capital. What I think would be really interesting, Brian, for this second part maybe is thinking about leadership now and maybe some of the lessons we talked about in the first episode, how they applied at Jamberry or now here at Visible Supply Chain Management. What have you brought with you to leading operations, do you feel like?
I feel like what I'm able to bring is a whole bunch of different lessons from different companies. So I do have quite a few different diverse experiences in my background, starting working at a missile factory for Raytheon as an engineer, doing various different project work, even while I was at MIT. One project for a chocolate manufacturer, actually, where we went in and worked on improving the process that they were employing in making chocolate. So that's actually really fun. To working on a crazy research project that was happening down at the Lawrence Livermore National Labs. I mean, just exposure to all these different approaches, some of them very technical and some of them very engineering oriented, and some of them being much more just basic nuts and bolts kind of practices. Inventory practices at Jamberry. These were different things going on in different companies, and to be able to both learn and affect change at the same time. So I've had many cycles of that happen, and especially at Sorenson Capital, the opportunity to work with five or six portfolio companies over the course of a few years. Just giving again those cycles of opportunity to both learn a business and affect change at the same time. So now at this point, it feels like that's what I generally do as I go into a business.
So let's talk about this. Visible Supply Chain Management, $300 million a year company, 1,000+ staff. What's something interesting that you've observed since coming over there?
So Visible is a company that's grown very fast. It's a very dynamic culture, really a great culture where merit and best ideas win kind of setting. I've seen a lot of companies give lip service to concepts like being having candor in our discussions and not let's talk openly but not get offended, those kind of things. But really the leadership here, they exemplify those concepts. They take them to heart. They defer judgment while people give their input, and they take seriously the ideas that are presented as a business. So it's a really high growth environment, but at the same time a very, I think, progressive culture and effect to build a great team and to build something that's sustainable.
Yeah. So when you think about the world of leadership and growing leaders, what's a story from your own experience? Somebody that, maybe they mentored you along the way and you made a discovery, or the role of turning people into leaders. Who's somebody that you have observed that did that well? Any stories come to mind?
Yeah, when I look back over my career, there's just lots of mentors that have helped me along my way. And so I think I would take an example of actually a couple examples. My very first manager at Raytheon, John Covington, he uh, he really wanted me to have opportunities to grow. He really believed in that the development of people as part of his business purpose, and that's something I've adopted in my business purpose. So he gave me opportunities to be part of Raytheon's um, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt program when it was just rolling out, and he gave me opportunities to be part of these other programs that were going on. And without those opportunities, I would not have had the same type of preparations. If he had been the type of manager that said, I'm going to keep you in this job because you're doing a good job and I need people to do a good job in my department, and I'm going to hold you in here, my career would have taken a very different path. I feel like that again in the mentorship that I received from Randy Hales, who was the CEO of Mity Lite when I came over from Sorenson Capital and joined Mity Lite. He convinced me. He said, "Hey, I think you'll have more fun and you'll be able to create more change and things from the inside by joining my team. And we're going to go and do some really fun things, but it'll mean that you have to leave Sorenson Capital." Ultimately, that was the right decision just because of the type of experience that I could have inside the business that I couldn't have otherwise had. But again, that was him opening a door for me, but also mentoring me through that process. And the same, I feel the same for John Dudash, who's the current CEO, who opened doors for me to really take on business development and take on acquisitions for the company. Again, there's a common theme there. Leadership in business means that you're providing opportunity for other people to grow and develop. And as you're doing that as a leader, then you really are creating an opportunity for those individuals, but you're also creating, I think, a culture and a company that can actually grow and, develop over time. And that's just huge. It was huge to me. It's huge to the people that are your employees. And, finding those various opportunities are an important thing that we always have to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, I'm interested in maybe taking this a different direction. Our you making this show here with Corporate Alliance. You and I have seen each other at the C4 lunches, things like that. What's been the value to you? Like I know my answer to this, but I'm interested in your answer of like peer-to-peer mentorship and these maybe more informal opportunities to associate with the people who are kind of in the same position as you. They're maybe not your leader, but they're folks who have valuable experience to learn from. Interested in any of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd love to comment on that. I think, at these events, there are the opportunities to meet with the other leaders of the companies in Utah that are flourishing. They're doing awesome things. So we're able to learn some of the lessons from those individuals. There's also something about Corporate Alliance itself, their mission to help connect people, but they're also committed to the development of each of their partners, each of their businesses that are part of the Corporate Alliance network. So one of those, I think one of my more significant experiences that I've had with Corporate Alliance actually came when I sat down with Kent White, who's the Chief Experience Officer at Corporate Alliance. We were at a Jump Summit, so that this is a development summit that Corporate Alliance offers for employees of their partner companies. And he challenged me to develop a business purpose statement, which at first I was like, you know what, like I don't need to draft some sort of mission statements kind of thing. I that's not what I need. And he really helped me see the value of declaring with clarity what my business purpose is, and to help me focus around those things that I want to do, truly want to do as a leader. And so in about a half-hour session together, I was able to rough out some ideas with him, and that's been a huge help to me. And that's something that I look at. I have it on my mirror. I look at it every day, and it helps me to think through, what am I trying to accomplish in this career and in this, in our work life, our employment is something that, we're involved in for so many years. Do we do it with purpose? Do we do it and create the kinds of experiences that we hope that we will for ourselves and others? So I think that's been one of the probably greatest benefits for me, is the development focus that Corporate Alliance has on all of its partners and partnership.
I love it. I feel like it's me going back to episode 1 of, it's funny how often the best answers are the simple answers. We did a couple episodes with guys from Mountain America Credit Union, and it's crazy how intense they are about that repetition on a daily basis with all their staff, and how they've grown from 1 billion in assets to over 7 billion in assets,
Yeah.
and that consistent, simple but powerful, consistently applied has produced outsized results for them, right?
Yeah.
Shifting gears a little bit, I want to maybe get some wisdom from you. We seem to be moving to more of an online world, if that's even possible to get more online than we already are. Amazon has become the behemoth it has become. As you look at kind of insight into the industry that you have, any lessons for the rest of us as you look at what's happening at Visible that might apply to other industries, other businesses, of just, hey, here's what we see coming down the pipe over the next few years, and here's how business in general may want to benefit from that?
Sure. So it's a, the question of where all of this e-commerce world will go, right? I mean, with so much focus on e-commerce and e-commerce marketing, social marketing, social advertising, all of these various pieces. So there's the customer-facing side, and then there's the operating side, the execution side of all of these systems. And so we continue to see more and more focus on social advertising and social marketing. I also think that we're going to see a backlash at some point. We're seeing it a little bit with Facebook right now. We're seeing it a little bit across all of the social platforms, and also a little bit of backlash in general against the type of intrusion that we're seeing on that customer-facing side. So even while there's a really active effort, which we're involved in as well, to approach big data, to use machine learning and artificial intelligence techniques for gaining better and better insight into the customer, I think we really do have to be cautious in those things, not to create backlash, and not to create something that's really counter to what we want to do in business with integrity. So that's this view of the customer-facing side. On the execution side, there's also a different path happening too. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask on this side, is your point that those of us who are collecting data on our customers, may need to just be a little more proactive of what's the reputational loss if the backlash comes back in a bigger way? Or what's if you were taking the water to the end of the row on that one, being cautious, here's what a business may want to be thinking about before they have to, or, dig your well before you're thirsty kind of approach.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think, we just have to do things in a way that, like, just if we put ourselves in place, ourselves and our families in place of that customer that we're trying to prospect, then I think it's simple enough, actually, to say, hey, look, what is really helpful to me as a customer? Because some of these things are actually really helpful. Like when you buy something on Amazon and it says, hey, people who bought that also bought this. And you go, you know what? I actually did need that. I just didn't know it. Now, that's good. That's good for both companies, or that's good for both parties, right? Because it actually, in many cases, that's something that is helpful and useful to the end customer. And I think there's lots of opportunities to do those kind of approaches that are helpful. But then there's also ways that we can intrude and create problems that are way beyond what we're ready to deal with, as we saw with Facebook recently.
Well, I just love the test that you put in there of, yeah, what if you replaced your friends and family with your customer? Do you still feel good about that level of intrusion, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so I was interrupting you. I want to hear about operationally, execution wise, what you think the implications are.
Yeah, so on the execution side, I think people, they don't generally know what happens after they press the submit button on their Amazon order. And that's the world we live in. You press submit, and then somebody at a warehouse is going to actually pick and pack and ship your product, and you're actually going to get postage and a shipping label for that product to actually make it to your house, and it's going to be delivered through a supply chain. And the question was, what do I foresee happening there? What are the opportunities and the things that people need to realize, and what are the whatever there, and really there are lots and lots of things happening in that space that are really exciting, and many of them having to do with creating more and more flexible systems. Again, electronic solutions, a lot of cloud solutions, a lot of big data opportunities, a lot of machine learning. It's again those same types of applications that create better and better optimizations. So really, the name of the game in this space is optimization, and that's why we see Amazon taking the types of steps that they are, putting more and more distribution centers and fulfillment centers across the country, because that puts them closer and closer to customers. It optimizes cost for the customers. And then, of course, they get the volume that's related to that through their front end process. And that allows them stronger and stronger negotiating power. Then they're putting in all sorts of solutions, and they're testing lots of things. I think that's another piece, is to be in this space, you have to be testing and you have to be piloting and experimenting.
Well, I was actually going to ask about that. Without sharing company secrets, can you give us an example of something you guys have tested recently, or something that you plan on testing, without spilling the beans?
Sure. Yeah. So I think just like most companies in our space, there are research and development efforts to try to understand how to do fulfillment better. And when I say better, I mean, again, fewer steps, easier process, more cost effective. So Amazon has chosen one path, and that path is a highly automated, robotic approach, so that their warehouses are filled with robots running around, delivering packages or product to individuals who then package them and ship them out. So that's one method, and that's a very expensive method. And largely Amazon, because of who they are, if you look at their financials, one thing about it is their shipping and their fulfillment costs are not profitable, and that's a luxury that all the rest of us don't have. And so when we're in a fulfillment third-party logistics world, we have to be profitable in the products that we're shipping out. So part of our research and development is to figure out, how do you do e-commerce fulfillment in a very optimized way without making tens and in the case of Amazon, hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in capital equipment.
Yeah. So what's an example?
An example of that type of research?
Yeah. What's an example of what that looks like for you guys, or something you're interested in, or?
Yeah. So really, how do you do fulfillment in a semi-automated way, so that you're not relying solely on automation, but you're getting the majority of the benefits of that without being fully automated.
So does that show up as like lower cost robots, or what does that look like tangibly?
I think what it shows up as, and I don't want to give away in here, but I think how it shows up is really what's the optimal way that you can put machines and people together. And this is what we saw at Mity Lite. We saw if you relied completely on robots, you had a very high cost of all this automation, and you actually had a slower output. So that's the thing that I think most people don't understand. Like, robots actually are so much slower than people, except in specific cases. So again, I'll go back to Mity Lite. A robotic welder can weld 3 times as fast as a person, but a robot that places metal parts into a welder is 4 to 5 times slower than a human. So you optimize around the things that each can do well, and there's some magic that you reach there. So there's some R&D around that, and that's specific to fulfillment. But there are lots of I think there are lots of opportunities to, again, increase and improve the competitiveness of companies like ours against companies like Amazon.
So besides just the trial and error approach, are there books? Are there conferences? Who do you feel like are the smartest people to learn from in that arena?
Boy, that's a good question. I think Amazon, they're at the forefront of all of this. They have the money to invest in it. So they're the subject of almost every conference that we go to, which is really funny, because many times they're not even presenting. It's other people who present about Amazon. So there are lots of trade shows in our space. Again, many of them are looking to Amazon for leadership. I think that's why this is a frontier, is that those people who are investing in their own research are going to come up with some solutions. And that's our approach. We're, of course, trying to learn from the trade shows and conferences, but also we recognize that not all solutions come from inside the industry. Lots of them come from other industries, and then also creating a real research and development approach actually creates insight that no one else is going to come up with.
I love it. Well, appreciate all the time you spent with us here today. It's fun to hear this, common themes across diverse companies there.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you.
Great. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Logan Wilkes, and I'm the CEO of Corporate Alliance. A few years ago, I moved to San Diego to build a new market for us there. The biggest deterrent I had to success was I didn't know a soul. I often thought to myself, if I just had a thriving network or influence, this would go 100 times faster. To be honest with you, I had never felt so alone in my life because A, I didn't have an influence, and B, I didn't know anyone that was going through the same thing that I was. If you have ever felt like this and you are looking to grow your influence, join us at one of our upcoming events. You can check us out at corporatealliance.net and request an invite to one of our upcoming experiences.